The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly in the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Chantel, connecting Virginians to their government. We're very pleased to have Senator Frank Ruff with us again today. Good to see you, sir.
Woody, it's a pleasure to be back with you.
Now, as I recall, you have the largest senatorial district, state senatorial district in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yes, by about 40%. I used to define it as 4 times the size of Rhode Island, but I realized when I looked at a map of the United States, Rhode Island looked awfully small. So now I describe it as 2 miles from Jamestown across the river to 7 miles from Martinsville.
Wow.
Then people understand that.
And it's commonly referred to as Southside, as I recall.
We have worked hard to call it Southern Virginia.
Southern Virginia.
It sounds much more genteel.
Okay. Well, give us an idea of the constituency you represent, the economy there, what kinds of issues you are pursuing here to help your constituents.
Well, because it's such a stretched out district, you have different economies. You have the Danville area, which has been heavy manufacturing, and they've lost a number of jobs over the years. The same, to a lesser degree, not quite as large in the middle part. And then you have the area around Petersburg, Hopewell, that has benefited from the expansion of Fort Lee several years ago, and Rolls-Royce and companies like that, of high-quality companies. We are somewhat concerned at this point with the Fort Lee. The sequestration issues are changing the numbers. They're going to still need the same instructors, but they'll have fewer troops rotating in and out for training.
So things have changed dramatically since your tenure here, both on the House side and in the Senate, in terms of the economy, because tobacco was big at one time, textile. I think furniture, is Bassett Furniture still resident there?
Most of the furniture companies are gone now.
Okay.
The tobacco is still there. It's not doesn't have the same auction system that it had. Most of it's contract now, but there's still an awful lot grown. Textiles has been the biggest loser, though. There are very few textiles made in this country anymore. And
what about agribusiness? It's a very rural community. What about farming?
Well, it is. People have diversified, but not nearly as much as we should. But those are the growth areas, those niche markets.
What kinds of things does government need to do in terms of encouraging people and getting out of the way more than anything else to create more jobs through small business development and those kinds of things? Because I know you're heavily involved in that, especially workforce development.
Well, I'll talk about the workforce in a minute, but one of the things that we're focused on now is those businesses that have survived the first couple of years, but they have not gotten to be big businesses. They're still small businesses that they have already proven themselves, but they need a little bit of guidance as to where to go next. They had a great idea that worked, but they just need more expertise. There is a program called Economic Gardening that we're trying to push along this year, and get the Economic Development Partnership and folks like that to say, how do we focus on those businesses? Those are the businesses that create jobs. They may have started out with 1 or 2 people. They may have 5 now, but they're the ones more likely to double or triple than a startup in the next year or 2, or a larger company that's pretty well set in its ways.
Now, are those businesses concentrated in one particular area or more than one particular area in the district?
No, that's the kind of company that can really thrive in a small town setting. So we don't have the massive numbers of the urban centers. So a small business in in the 5 to 20 range is a good, solid backbone type
So
of
what
business.
would be an example of that type of business?
It could be anything from an orchard operation to a distribution company of a specialty product.
And you mentioned Rolls-Royce. How many people does that entity employ?
I'm not sure of the numbers right now, but they're well-paid jobs, and they are in the expansion mode. They're completing a new building within the last few or the next few months, and so they will continue to expand that operation as the economy returns to some strength.
So where are they located in the district, Rolls-Royce?
They are in Prince George County,
Okay.
in the
Okay.
Hopewell area.
Okay. And of course, you mentioned one of the military installations in your district and the impact of sequestration. That was the across-the-board cuts that the Congress has imposed, but the brunt of it has been felt by our military.
It has, and it's also affected the contractors, but
Right.
we don't have a whole lot of contractors in our area. But to cut back, they have said, okay, we can't do everything, so we won't train as many troops, which I'm not sure is very good public policy. You still have to keep the instructors there, and you have to keep the services open. But in the case of Fort Lee, what they do is they rotate troops in for a training period, and then they go back to their home base.
Now, how are the schools faring in the district, both K through 12? I know you have a couple of community colleges, and you also have some private institutions. How are they faring?
Well, I think overall we're doing about the same as the rest of the state. There are challenges that we have because we have poor communities in many cases, and so resources are a little tougher to come by than in some of the suburban counties. But we have dedicated teachers and good teachers, and they do the job they need to do, but they're just stretched a little more. Yeah.
Now, so you have, I believe, Southside Community College, and then you have Danville Community College as well.
Those two, and then pieces of John Tyler and a little bit of the Central Virginia out of the Lynchburg area.
And so they provide an educational opportunity from some of your constituents, not only young adults who may want to matriculate to one of our institutions of higher learning, but also adults who lost employment and need retraining, and that's part of the Workforce Development Initiative.
Yeah, that's been a focus of mine for several years, but the last couple of years we've been worked on a more targeted situation that we've got with we have for a young person fresh out of college, living at home and having a place to sleep and a few free meals, they're not pushed quite as much. But if you have a 30-year-old with a couple of kids, if you tell them to become a precision machinist, a welder, any kind of skills needed job, that it's going to take them 2 years to go through that program, that person with those dependents are either not going to start the program, or when they find some kind of job, a lesser job, they'll just have to quit, because if not, they'll go bankrupt. As simple as that. What my bill would do is try to focus on what we want to accomplish, and that's to get that person certified, independently certified by a national standard, so that they have a job almost guaranteed when they come out. The community college would be rewarded for that individual only if he passed that national certification. At that point, their mentality changes from stretching it out to a 2-year program to tightening it up to as shorter program as they can. So instead of 2-year programs, we would be delighted to see many more 3 or 4 month training program. And you take welding in the community college system, you really don't need an associate's degree. You need the certification. They're associate degree program is 56 hours in the lab.
I see.
You can accomplish that in a month. But so if we can shorten those programs and we get more turn of people receiving the skills they need, one, it helps that individual, and two, it helps the existing industries in the area, and three, when other companies, nationally and internationally, see that we have a pipeline that works, that are producing the people so that they start building a building, then they will have the employees they need at the right time.
That's very important, especially in terms of attracting those new businesses and maintaining the ones that are there in order to keep those youngsters at home, so to speak, that they don't seek employment someplace else throughout the Commonwealth or through other states. What about, are there many veterans that retire and reside in the district?
Quite a few, because we have the lakes in the area. You have the area around Fort Lee that attracts some folks because of they like the atmosphere around. And then you have the lake area, and some just want to come out and be country folks. So yeah, we have quite a few retirees.
Do many of them take advantage of the community college system there?
I don't know about that. That's beyond my knowledge. My focus is on those folks who need jobs, and some of those are veterans, but the overall, it's the guy who had a job that his skill level was not what is needed in today's economy.
Right. Now you've got some really good private institutions in the district as well. Talk to us about those.
Well, Avery College is the only one that's really in the district, but we're served by Hampton-Sydney, and we're on the fringe of a lot in Virginia and North Carolina. So it's there are a lot of good institutes. Virginia is so fortunate to have a variety of public and private colleges that have their niche, from the William and Marys and UVAs to the UVA-Ys and the Ferrums, and it's just we're very wealthy in that range.
Now, what about the impact of your service on the Tobacco Commission and the ability to focus funding on workforce development, potential? I think there are scholarships and loan forgiveness programs that have been utilized by students.
We've had the scholarship programs that have worked both in the 4-year arena and the 2-year arena, and that continues forward. What we're working on now is creating 3 centers of excellence for manufacturing, one down in Bristol, one in the Martinsville area, and one in the South Boston area. And the goal there is to take those people that have reached a good level and taken them to a great level, so that we have really the best of the best. And I think that's going to be recognized internationally.
Now, if you had a magic wand you could wave and instantly cure all the ills in terms of unemployment in your district, what are some of the things? I know there are things you're working on now, but what additional things do you think you need as in your toolbox, so to speak?
I think reincorporating the innovative spirit in young people is probably the biggest thing that we need to do, and that's true everywhere. When all of us were getting ready to get out of school, people would say, "Where are you going to go to school? Where are you going to? Who are you going to go to work for? Not what do you think you can make? What can you do?" And when we start losing that somewhere, I don't know, between 0 and 5 years old. I don't know where we lose it, but there are so many services that we could fill with local people that we just don't do it because we've told everybody that they need. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Not let those. Not encourage them to think outside the box and say, you know, what do I feel good about doing?
Early childhood development programs. I know that's something you're working on as well. Talk to us a little bit about that initiative.
Well, we over the last few years, number of years, we realized that some young people are not coming into the process at a very high level. And so the goal has been to try to bring those people forward, whether because of whatever reason that they have not, so that they're, when they begin kindergarten, they're ready for it. So there have been a number of programs that have been put out there, and all those programs are saying, we need more money, we need more money. And so we want to step back and say, okay, what type programs are really successful so that we spend the money in the right areas rather than just throwing money out all over the place.
Now, to what extent has the standard of learning debate been involved in your community? I know there were changes last year, the proposed changes in terms of the standards, the number of tests and those kinds of things. Has that been something of major concern in your district?
Well, with teachers, it's always a concern, and being married to a teacher, that's,
Okay.
I hear that argument. Actually, I cut some money out of the budget a couple of years ago to cut some of them out, and then there were more that were cut out last year. The feedback I got was that if you drop the science in the third grade, then it puts more pressure on the fifth grade teacher because nobody will have been pushing the science until they get closer to it. And there's some argument there, but you know, we just need to, on anything like that, we need to rethink it every once in a while and say, are we doing the right thing? And is what we're doing producing what we want to produce?
And I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, the courts have made the General Assembly rethink the ability of the state to take over failing schools. I think there's a judge that has declared that legislation unconstitutional, so apparently that effort is dead in terms of some mandate.
It is dead, and I'm not sure where we go from there. Under the Constitution, the local school board is responsible for the education of those young people in that particular jurisdiction. If the community does not believe education is important enough to put the right people in the right places, and the courts are saying, federal courts are saying we can't change that, then we have somewhat of a problem, and I don't know how we're going to get around that.
And of course there was another initiative which purported to grade local schools from A to F. That caused a little controversy as well. Where does that stand?
I think that's in the freezer right now. I don't think anybody's pushing that. I think there may be another version of that coming around the pike this year, but I have not seen it yet.
If you had to characterize or prioritize the issues that you hear about on a daily basis from your constituents or when you're back home, when you're not in session, I take it the economy and jobs would be number one.
Yes, that's the highest priority. We have, our unemployment rate has exceeded the state's often double. And during the last 7 years since the recession began, our economy has reflected more of the problems that North Carolina had than what Virginia had, because we have more technology, and the defense contractors in Northern Virginia and Tidewater kept our economy stronger, where those rural areas that based themselves on manufacturing were not as strong, and so our employment rose quicker and higher. With the sequestration, we don't know where we'll end up on that.
And does Danville still have the highest unemployment rate?
I think Martinsville generally usually is, but it's all too high.
Right. What is it?
You're pushing 10%
Wow.
in most of those cases.
Now, you've got a lot of roads, so transportation has to be an issue in your district. Talk to us about, is 460, State Road 460 in your district?
Marginally.
Oh, okay, okay.
It does go through Prince George in that area, so it is, but it's and that's been a turbulent situation because
Right.
you've had a consideration of expanding that road, changing that road. You've put people that live in that corridor on hold for, I think, about 11 years now. And can I sell my house? Should I sell my house? If you decide that you need to sell your house for financial reasons, for you have to tell the realtor, or the realtor has to tell the prospective buyer, this house may be taken,
Right.
or it may be your backyard may be gone, or something like that. And so that and that uncertainty means a lot of those people have not been able to sell their houses, and it's just really a tough situation for them.
So are the counties in your district having a tough time maintaining roads?
Well, of course, that's the state's responsibility, and the state has been focused more on the high-growth areas because of the numbers they have in legislators. It's the news stories generally focus on congestion, but if you look at it, deaths per population, deaths per 100,000, you'd find that that the rural counties have far more deaths. And so safety is our big issue. If you take a county like Charlotte County, with, I guess, about 12,000 people, the number of people, particularly young people, who have died on the road is just disproportionately great.
Is that a result of excessive speed, or are there other factors?
Well, some of the factors are primary roads that have hills and turns.
Okay.
But the reason it's the younger people is that younger people just don't have as good a judgment.
Right.
It may not be speed as much as it is being able to deal with the right response for a right situation. If a deer runs across the road.
Right.
In Charlotte County, there are a number of Mennonites that still use buggies, and they use those primary roads too, and all of a sudden you go around a curve and you
Right.
Behind one. It just becomes there are a number of factors, but judgment is probably one of those.
You mentioned the lakes. Does tourism contribute to the economy much?
Oh, that's a major factor. In the district, you have Lake Gaston, Bugs Island, and Smith Mountain Lakes. So,
do they have resorts associated with them, golf courses, that kind of thing?
some, yes. The Lake Gaston and Smith Mountain Lake developed more with those type amenities. Bugs Island Lake was built as a flood control. The other two were built to create power, and the power companies own the property to the water line or close to the water line, so people could build a little closer. They were held at certain levels a little better. Bugs Island Lake was built as flood control, so it may go up 15 feet, go down 15 feet, and so the houses are farther back, and you can't do quite as much commercial. There's good and bad and everything, and the good part of that is that we have a much more natural lake, and you can't see often you can't see the houses through the trees. If you're on a lake, it's just much more serene.
Wow. Now, what about the counties in terms of property taxes? I mean, I assume property values took a hit just like every place else throughout the Commonwealth, and then with the state having to reduce budget to localities, they must have not fared very well.
Well, the assessments obviously went down. A lot of the counties, I guess all the counties responded by having to raise the cents per hundred, and so it's been a challenge for all local government. Yes.
There's been an issue that's been around since last year due to the unfortunate circumstances that our former governor found himself in. Apparently there's talk of doing more in terms of ethics reform. I know there was something done last year. There's things being discussed now. What do you understand the discussion and the debate to be about now?
Well, we're not going to have a vote on ethics. We're going to have a vote on the appearance of ethics.
Perception versus reality, if you will.
People either have ethics or they don't have
Right.
ethics, and if they want to be corrupt, they're going to be corrupt. I think we will pass something. Will it change the world? Probably not, because people are people, and people, they're all shades of people and all shades of perspective in life, and you can't change that.
No, that's true. I guess some of the considerations relate to definitions of who's a close personal friend, who's
Sure.
a relative, whether it's a tangible or intangible gift, those kinds of things. So I guess you will be wrestling with those to some extent.
Yes, and I'm agnostic on it. I'll do whatever is necessary to do it. I didn't get into this to get rich, so I don't expect to be rich when I leave.
Yeah, and in a similar vein, I guess there's a proposal that some people say would just create another bureaucratic monster, and that's an ethics commission to let members of the General Assembly know in advance whether what they're about to accept is within the rules.
Well, I mean, you get a little bit silly when you say that somebody can't buy somebody else a cup of coffee, and a lot of the ethics consideration is going to be the relationship between legislators and lobbyists. Nothing in the last year has indicated that a professional lobbyist did anything involved. The individual in the McDonald case was a businessman who was probably a little, but anyway, I won't say anything else there. But a professional lobbyist who makes his living
Right.
or her living is not going to jeopardize their career by
Right.
making an unfair offer of something of value.
Right. Great. We'll leave it at that. Really appreciate your time, Senator Frank Ruff. Good luck in the next 40 days or so.
Thank you, Woody. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Chantel, connecting Virginians to their government. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.
Mm-hmm.